Hello and welcome back to my channel. One of the questions that I put up on my Instagram stories relatively recently, if you aren't following me all over there already, please do make sure you are. I'll link my Instagram in the description box down below. It's just Birth Baby Beyond. But when I was chatting to you guys, you mentioned that you would love to see what I have in my doula kit. So I've been on call for quite a few births recently, so it means that my doula kit is just ready to go in my car, ready to rock for when the time comes for mama to go into labour. So I thought that it might be quite good fun, instead of like a typical, designer what's in my handbag, which, let's be real, mine is full of nappies and wipes and all sorts of other unglamorous things. This could be a bit of fun. So if you are maybe a mum who's just kind of preparing for meeting your baby and maybe you want some ideas and some tips and tricks on what to pack for the hospital, or you are in fact a doula yourself and you want to kind of see about what sort of things other doulas pack, make sure and hit that like button and subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss any more of my future videos. So I actually have my doula kit just here, as if I was ready to go and hop into the car. The only thing that's missing, I don't know why I'm rocking out over here, is my Rebozo, which is my sort of woven wrap that I use to help shimmy baby into a better position during birth. The reason that's not here is because I was actually at a birth 2 days ago and that mama still has that in her home. So I'll make sure I get that back from her during one of our postpartum visits and give it a really good wash before we use it again. But everything else is still here. So the first thing that I always think of when I think of the marathon that is birth is fuel. So maintaining a really good level of hydration and then fuel with sort of snacks that are really easily going to be digested, both for the birthing person and for the birthing partner and the doula, is really, really important. So I want to be thinking about snacks that are nothing too fancy, nothing new, something that's going to be easy to digest, sort of a nice form of carbohydrates, and then nice way to be able to drink something. So I always bring with me some sort of granola bars, some cereal bars. These are my favourite at the moment. They are sort of a dark chocolate coated nut and seed bar, and they're so good. Great way of getting a little bit of protein in as well, and nice kind of slow digestion as well if you're thinking about something that's going to kind of keep the birthing person fuller for a bit longer. So a little nibble out of those whenever the moment strikes or that feeling of hunger comes upon you, which it mightn't always, but just keeping kind of some degree of fuel going is really important. Your uterus is a muscle just the same as any other, and you wouldn't run a marathon without having some sort of fuel in you. The other thing that I bring is these are actually so good. These are the Bear Paws mango and carrot. They're like fruit and veg shapes. Atticus loves these, but these are actually a great alternative to something like a jelly bean or a gummy bear, something to give you a little boost of energy, because there's quite a high fruit content in these, but they're really easy to eat as well. You can kind of just nibble on a few. So those are awesome. But granola bars, cereal bars, crackers and hummus, those sorts of things are really good. Something simple, something that's not going to be too hard on the digestive system. The other thing I think of then is something to drink water out of, but not just sort of the bottle or the cup, but a nice bendy straw. So I actually got a 10-pack of these from Amazon, and they're amazing. It means that no matter what position mum is sort of labouring away in, she can still have a little slurp of water or labour aid drink if that's what she's drinking at the moment. So that's really helpful. Always keep one of those on hand. For dad, in emergency situations, I'll always bring like a cold energy drink. I know they're not the best. So something like this, or like the cold coffees. So from the cold coffee section, I'll always have one of those in my bag. And normally I don't end up drinking these because I'm such a high from the birth, but oftentimes the birthing partner can get that sort of crash, and it can be really tiring being a birth support person. So making sure that I have one of those on hand has always gone down a treat. So little tip for my doulas out there. The next thing is hair ties. I normally have 2 in my bag, and then sometimes a little hair clip if the birthing person has sort of shorter hair that they just want to get back off their face. I know I have fantastic pictures actually of my mum trying desperately to play hairdresser and tie my hair back during my labour, and looking at her and just going, what are you doing? Because I've got so much hair, it's a real pain to tie back. So next time I am absolutely going to probably wash, dry it and plait it as soon as things sort of kick off next time. So a few hair ties is absolutely key. You can't focus on your breath when you've got your hair hanging over your face. The next thing then is a little heat pack. So this is one of those lovely rice bags you can just throw in the microwave. Particularly if you were birthing in a hospital environment, you actually aren't allowed to bring hot water bottles in with you, just from a health and safety perspective. So these are lovely. They also retain heat quite nicely and are quite malleable, so you can sort of tuck it into the bottom of your pants if you're putting it on your lower back or on your lower tummy. So that is really nice. Oh gosh, that made quite a loud noise. The next thing is on the sort of the other end of the spectrum. If you get too warm, it can be really miserable. So two things that kind of go hand in hand is I will bring 2 cloths. So these are actually sort of, they're cloth nappies, so they hold quite a bit of water. One is for your forehead or for your neck. So if you sort of want to put it in underneath the back of your neck, if you're quite hot, that can be lovely. So some nice cool water. And then the second one, so I have one black and one white. The black one I reserve for as a perineal compress. So a nice warm compress on the perineum as your baby's crowning can be so comforting, and just kind of encourage you to sort of release and relax everything down below, as well as acting as a little bit of compression there to reduce the likelihood of tearing. So make sure you have 2. Great to have 2 separate colours as well, just you do not want to get those mixed up. Again, if you're too warm, a nice little fan like this, I won't bother turning it on. It's just, actually, I got that from Lidl and it's fantastic. It works so well. It's battery powered, and if you just got, it can be really hot in the hospital. They have to have it really warm for those new babies who can't maintain their own heat as well. So this is fabulous if you're feeling really warm, and it gives quite a bit of power behind it as well. It's only $1.99, so keep an eye out for the next time they have those in stock. You can, of course, I've seen a lot of alternative uses for emesis bowls if mum is feeling a bit pukey, and that seems to be one of them, using it as a kind of a fan. The next thing refers to positioning, and just because you have a doula present does not mean that you have to avoid an epidural. A lot of my mums actually do opt for an epidural at some point or other, and one of the best ways that as a doula you can support that person is their positioning. So making sure that you are encouraging it sort of an alternating position every 20 minutes or so, and making sure that you use one of these guys, or simply, do I have an example? Not really. A rolled up towel that you can sort of bundle up like this and have a little U shape like that. And what you're doing is creating space for your tailbone or coccyx to sort of come through there. I'm using the wrong example. So as you're sitting on top of here, that tailbone wants to be able to move out of the way of baby's head as baby's head comes through. So it can't do that if you're sitting flat on the bed. For sure, rolling side to side is really nice, but if you've got a U-shaped pillow like this is just one of the neck pillows that you would use on the airplane. It means that it creates that lovely space for that tailbone to come back out of the way. It's really flexible, particularly during labour, so it creates all of that space for a baby's head to come through nice and easily. So I always bring one of those with me. The next thing then, I don't bring a whole bag with me generally, but I just haven't divvied them out, is popcorn kernels and a little bit of medical grade tape. So if you've already taken my e-course, you will know that I'm big into acupressure for birth, but also creating your own acupressure bands. So rather than fiddling around trying to find those last minute acupressure points that are going to be really helpful for you, marking those points out on your body, wherever you're going to be using them, wherever it feels good for you. So you should find a little bit of sort of tenderness there, but also a little bit of give in that spot. And marking them out with a Sharpie pen prior to when you actually go into labour means that you make these homemade little acupressure bands with a bit of medical tape, a little bit of a popcorn kernel. You can actually just place it over the spot and apply that sort of gentle pressure there without worrying about where those points are, and it also means that it's quite direct pressure as well, so you're not faffing around too much and not really hurting your hands, and it means it's a lot easier for the birth support worker as well. The next thing then is lighting. So I've only got one of these for show, but I will generally have a string of fairy lights and then some of these little LED, you can't really see them there because it's quite bright, little LED. These are just from the pound shop lights, so they're fabulous for if you are transferred into the hospital setting, but you want to sort of maintain that sense of oxytocin, a friendly environment. So calm, private, a feeling of being sort of uninhibited is what you really want to be going for. I think romance for the birthing partners. So a little LED candle set you can get. A set, I'll try and have my Amazon storefront link down below. So I've got my whole hospital sort of checklist linked there, so you can go and check that out and see what other sort of things I would recommend. Some other not so glamorous bits. I always keep a pack of these. This one actually isn't opened yet. They are Clever Dog puppy training pads, and they're exactly what you think they are for. If mama's waters release when they are at home and you are the person supporting them at that time, it can be a really nice way to change the sheets and save the sheets. So just popping one of these underneath mama as she's labouring away can be a nice way to both see what colour the lycra is, to be able to report back to their care provider, but also to be able to save whatever sheets, blankets or carpets are underneath them at that time. I just got those in the pound shop. You can absolutely get medical grade ones, but when you're just talking about the function being saving sheets, I think that's €1 is absolutely a bargain. Another thing I always bring is a spare pack of the TENS machine electrodes. These are the baby care TENS ones. I'm actually an affiliate with them, so I'll try and link my discount code somewhere down below. I loved the TENS machine last time, so I always think that it's worth a bash for every birthing person that I'm working with, but the last thing you want is to run out of batteries and TENS machine pads. So I always say give it a trial run, fresh batteries, and then if the pads become a little bit less sticky, if you've been using some sort of oil on their back, or they've been in a bath before you arrive, maybe with a bit of something in there, no harm to have a second set on hand. Then I've got this sweet little set that my gorgeous friend Laura actually got me, which is meant to be used for nappies and wipes, but actually we are doing a little bit of potty training at the moment, so I haven't been using it for that, and it's perfect for this purpose. So I just keep my ID badge, which I'm not going to show you because it's got my full name. I keep a little bit of Lanolin Nipple Balm, great for lips if your lips are getting very dry, mama's lips are getting very dry. A pen to jot down what time the water's released at, or sort of how often the surges are coming if you're not using a contraction timer. Things like that can be really beneficial, or sort of the onset of labour. I have a few little alcohol wipes, just at the moment really important to make sure everything's really clean. And a bit of alcohol gel, and then just some of my own little cards. So if for some reason I'm meeting a new sort of colleague or somebody who's new to the birthing world who maybe wants to touch base and see how I do things, or just to liaise with me for future births, that's something that I always make sure that I have. Just, you never know where you're going to have a business opportunity arise. And then the last things that I bring are some essential oils, and I love essential oils for birth. I think that they are absolutely an underused comfort measure. So I have some of my favourites here. Generally the way that I use them isn't as kind of like, I don't like to use them in a diffuser or as a massage oil, although I do have a really beautiful little mixture that one of my colleagues made up for me, and that can be really, really nice. But the reason I don't use these as often as I would the method that I'm going to talk about in a second is because I always think you don't know how you're going to react to these scents during labour. While you might absolutely love the smell of lavender during your pregnancy, your scents are so heightened when you're in labour that you might just find it all of a sudden really overwhelming. And if you've slathered your whole body in the scent, or you have it wafting around the room using your diffuser, it's quite difficult to all of a sudden get rid of it. So I always recommend just having a few little drops on a tissue, or simply inhaling directly from the bottle themselves. So just taking the lid off and having a direct little sniff there like that, and a nice kind of slow breath as well. It's a nice chance to focus on your breath. It's a really good way of doing that, and it just means that if you don't like the scent, you can just chuck that tissue in the bin, as opposed to it being sort of slathered head to toe. So I keep Clary Sage if things kind of slow down during labour. I've got the essentials for sort of those early surges. So I've got rose, I've got jasmine, I've got lavender, and I've got peppermint oil, which I use for sort of two times. The first one would be just during that phase of transition, so just before that phase where you get to meet your baby, where your body will start to have that urge to bear down and push. You might have a moment of feeling quite not only hesitant but also quite nauseous. So this peppermint oil can be beautiful. I love this during my first trimester too. That and lemon oil were amazing. So check out my my pregnancy nausea relief techniques video that I'll have linked somewhere up here. But peppermint is lovely for that, and as well as that, during that sort of nausea phase of transition, I love it for if mums are struggling to do their first wee after birth. Sometimes their bodies go into a state of not quite shock, but it just takes a while to kind of go into that phase of feeling that they can release that urine. And urinary retention is something that actually isn't talked about all that much, but it's quite common, particularly if a mum has had an epidural in place and have not been able to empty their bladder themselves, so had a urinary catheter in place, maybe intermittently, or had one left in situ for a while. So using a little bit of peppermint oil just to kind of help get everything moving just while you're sitting on the loo can be really, really helpful. But that is everything in my birthing, my labour, my doula kit. Prior to the pandemic, I would also have a birthing ball and a peanut ball in my kit, but I've actually made the decision not to bring those at the moment, simply because they have been sort of encouraging my clients to buy their own, not only for sort of sizing and things like that, but also just in terms of cleanliness, because I'm on call for several births at the one time, and I would hate for anybody, I'm just trying to keep everybody safe, just the same as everyone else is. So leave your questions down below, or let me know if you're a doula as well, what sort of things that you keep in your kit. And I think I'd love to find out what you guys have at the ready, because I feel like you're always learning, and there's always something else that I'll be like, oh my gosh, why don't I have that in my kit? So if you've been interested in this video, where you want to know a little bit more about birth prep, hypnobirthing, breastfeeding, anything at all that's related to giving birth and becoming a parent, please do make sure and hit that little subscribe button and the notification bell if you don't want to miss any more of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching.